Good afternoon, sunshines. Welcome to Homeopathic Services. My name is Pierre Fontaine, the professional homeopath for over 25 years. Every Tuesday at 2 p.m., we talk about weight loss. Every Tuesday at 2 p.m., we talk about weight loss. 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And I hope we all learn something. This is really terrific. I talk about weight loss really from a different point of view. The different point of view from what? On CNN, they had a 3-part article. And part one, and each part is increasingly aggressive intervention to weight loss. So part 3 is the surgery, literally removing the stomach. Of course, that works. However, it's not what this is about. Not at all. This is about anywhere between 10 to 60 pounds or over, and that I think is possible to do for most people, but it is possible to do with the right information. So the first segment, the first intervention, they call it, according to CNN, is a trifecta type of approach: food, exercise, and sleep. Great. But food, exercise, and sleep is what has been talked about for the last 50 years, 100 years, maybe longer, in order to lose weight. So what does it mean? You see, so diet is generally, they say, more fiber, drink more water. And being physical, number 2 is physical, active, simply getting up every hour if you have a desk job. Okay. And then sleep is the 8-hour sleep as we normally know about. Maybe we don't fulfill that, but that's what we know about, 8 hours worth of sleep. But what does it mean, food? Eating more fiber. This is something that has failed over and over again. So it is difficult. It is almost laughable that we still talk about this, about weight loss that way, when 95% of diets actually fail. So to me, this is not the way to lose weight. It is not. It is missing a point. It is missing a piece of information that is absolutely crucial for people to know. Because if one is going to eat more veggies and drink more water, that is most likely going to fail. There's nothing wrong with increasing water, possibly. Nothing wrong with increasing fiber, but it is wrong to think that is going to be not necessarily solve the problem, but be a great contributor to solving the problem. It is simply not going to be so. In a nutshell, the piece that is missing between exercise and food is what I talked about over and over again, and that is the biological food clock. We all eat according to criteria that are not quite ours, and because of that, we tend to lose weight. we tend to gain weight. We tend to gain weight because we are not following our own body, but we are following most of the time a pattern of eating that doesn't have much to do with us, but rather has to do with being conformist, with breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and snacks in between. That is not so conducive to losing weight. A body food clock, everyone I know now, since I've been talking about this body food clock, everybody I know now who's been following or trying to or putting effort into understanding themselves, understanding their own biological food clock, has reported some movement in the way whereby people everyone is reporting some ease regarding food. I most commonly give my example of my biological food clock. I didn't mean to say mine twice in a row here. My biological food clock is 10:30 in the morning. I usually don't eat much in the morning, and then I eat dinner at night. That is when I feel my best. That is when I know I lose weight that way. I don't have to even exercise in order to lose weight. My weight right now is actually pretty not too much of an issue at all, simply because I am doing that. I took about a month and a half off from running, and I did not gain weight. I did not gain weight because I follow my biological food clock. And the biological food clock is, I know I need calories at 10:30 in the morning, and then dinner at night. Once I add exercise, it changes. I need to eat in the middle after 3 p.m. So understanding that I can stay that I don't gain weight. Understanding that I eat according to my body biological food clock, and that becomes very, very easy. It becomes easy. I don't have to think about it. You usually think about, what am I going to have for lunch? We think about food, which really triggers even more, gastric juices. We think about food. Not so great, I don't think. Okay, but if we follow when we follow a biological food clock, it's literally, for me, it's 10:30. It's almost on the dot. By 10:45, I am hungry. And I know I am hungry because it feels differently. Okay. So instead of saying diet, food, exercise, and sleep, we need a program, a weight loss program needs to be precise upon what can be done. Okay. And what can be done is best according to oneself, rather than a blanket statement that doesn't make any sense. Food, exercise, and sleep. Evidently, we need food in order to survive, and we need to exercise somewhat, at least. Okay, but exercise is not a prerogative to losing weight. It is not. It helps. It can help. It doesn't help all the time. It can help, but it cannot help. Exercise, let me put it this way, a different way. Exercise cannot help to lose weight unless we are in contact, in touch with our own biological food clock. And the reason is very simple, because exercise is a little bit insidious. When we exercise, after we exercise, we tend to feel like we can afford. We can afford the cookie, we can afford the ice cream, we can afford to eat, we can afford the bigger meal, we can afford just about anything. And this is not true. So in terms of exercise, I define the amount of exercise that one should keep their eyes on as far as eating, because I've earned it. If one runs, a 5K run does not warrant food. One should not feel like I can eat now. I can eat the ice cream because I exercise. It's a very insidious way of actually being very counterproductive with weight loss, and this happens over and over and over again. In the last 2 years, been a lot of articles regarding the counterproductivity of losing weight with exercise. It is best to lose weight only with what we eat. The math is very simple on this. If one exercises for about 30 minutes, it's about 300 calories. Okay, and that's actually a pretty, oh, it's almost a high figure, but let's say 300 calories. Man, 300 calories is a mouthful. 300 calories is a mouthful. I laugh because you should see my 85-year-old mother when she asked you to get if she could taste your ice cream. Let me tell you, once those teeth move away from your ice cream, there's hardly anything left. So it is 300. Let's put it this way: 300 calories is basically a mouthful, or maybe two. Okay. You've made up the you made up for the exercise you did. That's just not, that's not going to lead any, it's one step forward, one step back. So anything under 5K, anything 5K or just about, no replenishment. Okay, ideally, if one needs to lose weight, maybe you can afford a little something actually after 10K. All right, drink some water, just like it says, drink some water. All right, that should be that should be pretty much where we're at. Unless you are 10K every day, okay, then we have to take the frequency into consideration. But if one is in touch with his or her biological food clock, the answer comes to you. You don't have to figure this out. The answer comes to you. That is the beauty of it. The beauty is absolutely 10:30, 7 o'clock for me. It could be something completely different. It could be 3 o'clock in the afternoon for your first meal, and then you eat again at 8. That anything can be. Okay, you may think, well, between 3 and 8, but I don't eat anything. Follow your biological food clock. Biological food clock is not something that is rational. Okay, so in that sense, you can feel trust in yourself. It's fine if you don't have to. If you absolutely do not feel like eating until 3 o'clock in the afternoon, there is nothing wrong with that. And especially if you need to lose weight, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. If you go to lunch, if you have the feeling, if you've been feeling even for a long time that you should really eat, you're not quite hungry at 12:30. You just go out because it's lunchtime. But if you've been feeling for a long time that 3 p.m. is really the way, or maybe on Sundays, maybe on weekends, you eat at 3 p.m. and then during the week, you go out at 12:30. If you do that, then I suggest to go eat at 3 o'clock in the afternoon every day, because that is probably what your biological food clock is. Okay, so do it every day, and then eat your, maybe you want a small meal, maybe you want a big meal at 3, maybe you want a small meal at 8, maybe vice versa. Okay, anything, there's no judgment. There should not be any judgment as long as we follow our biological food clock. There should not be any judgment. Don't overthink this. Maybe you want a salad at 3 p.m., but it's all a mind game too. Maybe you want to eat a salad. Maybe you want to eat something light at 3 p.m. at 3 p.m. But because of everything that is said with diets and all that, you've changed. You've changed over the years, and well, I'm not gonna eat a salad because I haven't eaten since 8 o'clock last night, and they say it's not good, and they say this, they say that. Yes, I should really have snacks actually throughout. I should munch throughout so I don't have a big appetite. If you feel like a salad should be it at 3 p.m., eat a salad at 3 p.m., 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Do that. Do that. And if you feel like a steak, a piece of fish at 8 o'clock, do that. That's fine. Or maybe you just want vegetarian at 8 o'clock, but a big one, do that. That's fine. Okay, that is fine. If you follow your body biological food clock, you will find the time, the optimal time for you to eat. That is the optimal time. When I say the optimal time for you to eat, it is the optimal time in your body. And that is when you're going to most likely absorb the most nutrition. Okay, instead of packing the body, look at it as the body being open to it. That's when it tells you, that's why it's a clock. It's time for me to eat. That is the body talking. It is time for me to eat. Not necessarily when you want to eat. It is time for me to eat. And that is when I should be nurtured. That's when I should be nourished. That's what a biological food clock is. When I ought to be nourished as the body. Look at your body just like you look in the mirror. That is a great way to go about it. And the body, that's when it will receive nourishment. It will be open to receiving nourishment. And most likely, you will actually eat less. Because in this 12 o'clock example, most people drink coffee. They have to drink coffee. Most people have to drink coffee because it's a food allergy. You actually have to counter falling asleep after lunch. That's a food allergy. In tune with the body, not being in tune with the body, just pack the body with food when it was not ready. So now it just needs to process this and send it out on its way. And you need coffee. You need coffee because now the body, since the body was not ready for food according to its own need, it needs a stimulant in order to process this food and set it on its way. You see, when it is ready, when it is open for food, then it is not a problem. If you eat according to that, most likely the coffee will not be needed. That is a great thing, and most of the maximum absorption of nutrients will occur. That's because, again, the body is ready. It's got its own rhythm. And what I'm asking for people to do in order to lose weight is to find your rhythm. And that's another word for biological food clock, your body's rhythm. And the body's rhythm is nobody's to dictate, but everybody's duty to find. It is nobody's to dictate, okay? Unless it's on the night of Hanukkah, Christmas, Easter, those days when it all goes out to, it all goes out, you see, literally. So that is the best thing to do. And a general observation is that when we follow a biological food clock, we generally skip a meal. It's just a general observation. Nothing to that can be etched in stone, but definitely a common phenomenon. And people don't feel hungry. That's just what it is. And then we can lose weight. Once we are in touch with this, then exercise can be brought in. But like CNN is suggesting, diet, exercise, and sleep. That does not have enough information to be successful. It just doesn't have the information that will change what the trends have been, and the trends have been total failure. That's what the trends have been. 95% of diet fail, and 95% of diet fails because it's just not. They fail because they're not true. What is being said is not true. If what was being said was true, then there would be mostly success. It's not mostly success because it is not true, or it is just partly true. Exercise, like I mentioned, is insidious. It can really make the whole process counterproductive. So it is not something I suggest to do right off the bat. Finding one's biorhythm with food is the most important. Exercise can be counterproductive. It's also important to understand, I think, that we have 300,000 calories extra. We carry 300,000 calories extra on our bodies. Perhaps you have seen athletes, most particularly in sports that require a lot of aerobic ability. Sports that require a lot of aerobic ability. The three top sports are running, swimming, and bicycling. Running and bicycling are two things that can be done without equipment. Well, I mean, a bike, but most people do have a bike as opposed to an Olympic pool. So, and if you've seen, we've all seen runners, and they are very, very thin. Most definitely very thin. There's a body type, yeah. With really, in terms of long distance runners, there is a certain body type. They are very thin. Sometimes when you see this marathon, such as here in New York, you see these top athletes, and you just wonder how in the world do they even finish this 42K sprint. The speed at which they run is basically a sprint for me. It's twice as fast as I am, but they're very thin. So what they do is shed those 300,000 calories. That's what they do. That's what contributes to their performance. If you see a cyclist, a professional cyclist, their bodies, a professional runner, the body is generally, especially for women, their bodies are very trim, very lean, but generally quite pleasant to look at. The body of a professional cyclist is ugly to look at. Especially nowadays, because all they spend their time on are essentially the thighs. They have no arm, no chest, they are nothing but, as the thighs are pretty big. Even the calves are thin. But the point here again is they shed those calories. They shed part or a lot of those 300,000 calories that we carry with us. That is part of the weight that we need to lose. So part of the weight we need to lose can be used to run, can be used to swim. Swim has resistance, there's a resistant element to it. That's why they generate big and muscular, because they have to wade through water, which is a whole lot more difficult than wadding. Wadding through water. Wadding through air is a whole lot easier than wadding through water. So swimming requires muscle mass in order to compensate for that, and they're generally very lean. But what we get from these athletes is that they shed those 300,000 calories. They shed the pounds, because then once we shed the pounds, we are more effective in our sport. So in order to be more effective in our sport, we need to shed the pounds. And so why replenish? We have 300,000 calories packed up on our bodies, in our love handles, and maybe over here under the arms, and on our buttocks and thighs, and so on and so forth. That's not lean muscle mass. That is fat. And fat, we can lose fat all around. We can lose fat all around, and that will help us keep a cardiovascular system healthy, so that we can live long, good, productive lives. So there's no reason to replenish. There's no reason to use exercise to think that we can afford now to eat. Very, very, very counterproductive thing to do. Let's shed as much as that 300,000 calories we have. I'll take once again myself as an example, because I think a lot of what I talk about I learned from myself first, and then I talk to people, and some people apply what it is that I say, more or less. Okay. But regarding those 300,000 calories, I've shed a lot of them, and I say I'm half a runner. I'm sorry. A marathon runner will come in a bit, or let's say let's be harsh, and let's say 2 hours and 15 minutes. Okay, it's closer to 2 hours, but let's be harsh. Let's elevate myself. Nobody is telling me not to do. I'll elevate myself. I'd say this is so I come in about 4 hours. Okay, under 4 hours, by the way. I want to stay. I want to stay in the 3. So I'm in the 3. I don't run marathon, but I run half marathons. I don't go over 4 hours. That was a goal for me. I did not want to come in. So my time, in order to make my time such under 4 hours, then I needed to lose those 300,000 calories we have extra, so that I don't have to carry them. I don't have to spend the energy to carry them. So I don't replenish. I don't replenish when I train very much, okay? If I run a half marathon training, I do that. In order to run a half marathon, one needs to train and run half marathon, if a little bit over. Half marathon is is 13 miles, okay, and 21 kilometers. And I generally, when I train for half marathon, I run somewhere between 25 and 30K on my long run on weekends. There I replenish. There I do afford. I can afford to do that, but not all the time. Not all the time. But at that point, when it is basically a 5 to 6 day training, that is no longer exercising. We are training. So let's make the difference between exercising and training. There is a difference, okay? And we should not endeavor to train if we don't know our own biological food clock. Because when we train, then the biological food clock changes. So we need to be in touch with what is our base, okay? What is our base? If we are in touch with that, then we can adapt. It becomes much easier to adapt. So the base, the foundation, our own foundation is always the most important aspect. If we are grounded in any endeavor that we take, if we are grounded, we can be successful. If we're not grounded, we cannot be successful. That is why my friend Ganesha back there, Indian deity, is everywhere, because we anchored to be anchored in some truth, anchored in our own body is absolutely crucial to be successful in every single endeavor we take. There may be some ups and downs, but we remain. I always go back to World War II and I talk about that in my thoughts, because we won because we were on the moral high ground the whole time. It was difficult, but we came to it because we were on the moral upper ground, and that is a recipe for success. So once the moral high ground here is really this biological food clock, and then we can add exercise, then we can add training, and make a difference between these two. Once we understand this process, then we can see things in perspective. But just like CNN, I don't want to beat on them really, but to do a three-part series and just say diet, exercise, and sleep, that's a little much. What does it say? Going to the gym regularly is helpful, but don't expect to make up for those morning donuts. Yeah, exactly. That is absolutely true. That's what we've been talking about. Okay. Blah blah blah. Generally speaking, the amount of exercise required to make up for diet damage is huge. 500 calories is a piece of cake. So indeed, we don't make it up. It's hard to make up. Hard to make up for diet damage is huge. Oh, okay, diet damage. So that's what we that's what we don't want to do. Okay, we don't want to fall prey to our own good self-esteem and courage of going out in the morning or in the afternoon or late morning or evening or night to exercise. It is hard to exercise. It's not easy for most people to exercise. It really is not. It is not easy, especially personally. I'm not one to get in the car. I don't have a car, but I'm not one to actually go to a gym and get undressed, put a pair of shorts on and shoes and and then get to a machine. To me, that is a very, very, very time consuming. But if that is your style, then do it. That if your style is to have all this prep and the pre and post exercise, then by all means, whatever fits whatever fits your not your needs, but your personality. You see, my style is as soon as I hit the ground, as soon as I step out, it has to start. So running became, also because my daughter is an extraordinary runner. Um, uh, but that became a must. That became a must. That was a must. In order to exercise, I need to be able to do it in a time efficient way. That's me. That's me. If you want to spend 5 hours, if you need to put on your makeup before you go to you go to exercise, that's great. That is you. For me, it was a time. It was the time was a factor, and what I did was a factor. It seems to me that I don't do fencing. I don't do that. A lot of other things. That might have been that might be interesting. I don't swim. I hate cold water, so I can only swim in the summer. I can't stand cold water. Just the very thought of it, repels me. My first daughter was a swimmer, and oh my God, this is the greatest thing. So I go to pick her up. I'm generally awake in the waiting room, right? 20 years ago. I worked. I go pick her up, and I went in. I went in the pool, and here are these kids. It's the middle of the winter, and they have the holes going on. Cold water. I could not believe it. I mean, just right there, I would drop on my knees. They were perfectly happy with that. I can't stand cold water, so I don't swim. I do bike, but not as much as I run, because run is more effective. There's an point of view to that I personally appreciate, and so therefore that's what I do. I run. I think it is the most complete exercise. I have a lot of reasons for running. I have made up my mind about this. I've come up with all kinds of excuses to run, not to run. I've come up with all kinds of excuses to run. It's the purest form. It's the purest form is a big one. It's the in terms of the purest form, the form. Everybody thinks they can run, and yeah, everybody can run, but very few people do run. There's a form to it. There's a form that if we follow that form, we can go maybe 100 meters, 300 feet, and then after that, oh my God, so the way we run, there's an aesthetic about it. I've come up with all kinds of excuses to run. I appreciate a bike ride, but a bike ride does require a much longer amount of time, and it's just not as much as many calories. It's not as complete, like I mentioned before. I look at the bodies to see what it does, and I'm not a professional cyclist or anything like that, but it's really just the thighs. Running involves the whole body in terms of the chest, in terms of posture, in terms of the calves and the feet and the thighs, back and front. There's a lot of core exercise. Chest, opening up the chest, where all of this is extreme. So I find it the most complete, and the purest form of exercise is. I don't mean to twist anybody's arm, but that's the way I feel about it. Make up your own excuses to do what it is that you would like to do. And if it is ice skating, make up all kind of excuses that when you fall, it doesn't hurt. Come up with excuses to do your thing, to do what it is that you would prefer to do. And maybe it will change at some point, Maybe you will, from running, you might go to ice skating or swimming, or maybe you want to mix it up. Just like the biological food clock, once we get in touch with ourselves, we can really make the gigantic headway in a very simple and pleasant way. That is real. That's the kernel inside this biological food clock, inside this body rhythm, and that is, it becomes a pleasure. It becomes easy, first of all, and because you see, we don't eat according the time we eat according to what other people say we should do, we are probably once again on the wrong track. Forget about what we should eat as well. My shtick here is eat according to what you grew up with. Now, I'm getting some comments about that. Oh my God, you really don't want to know what it is that I ate when I was growing up. Well, okay, I get that. Although maybe not so much so thoroughly, because I've always had the luck to eat good food. Eat good food in terms of not what people would say is supposedly healthy for you. As a matter of fact, I ate most of my entire life French food. I cook myself. Oh my God, talk about cooking. Yesterday, I called Apple. I diverge. I called Apple yesterday, needed some information, and they say, well, you need to answer 2 of the 3 questions. Okay, well, let's answer 2 of the 3 questions, right? Those security questions. What is the first meal you learned to cook? What? I said, I never put that in. Then I realized it was my older daughter who actually put those questions in. I said, I cook 1,000 different things. I have no idea. I don't know. And he was really bad at French. So, because originally the questions were actually in French, I was like, oh my God, I don't know. What are you talking about? So, after a couple of guesses, I finally had the answer. But we eat what you think is really best for you. I grew up with home cooked food every day. If that is not so, unfortunately, the experience of most people who listen to these videos every week, then do what you think is best. Okay, try to buy as much organic food as possible. I gave an example last week that the reason for that is because organic food doesn't have certain additives. I talk about pink slime, which is really a very gross thing, additive, a filler. It's a meat filler that is added to meat when you buy meat, most particularly burger meat. They add it. Some brand don't. It's so disgusting, really. Once people found out about this pink slime, a lot of people refuse to, especially in some big chain food, fast food stores, got rid of this. But it was still in supermarkets in chopped meat. So the reason why it's very gross. It's very gross. It's bleach meat. I mean, you can't even think of it. It's so awful. Better not to talk about. But the point of organic food is that these fillers, these things are not added to it. And so you have a cleaner food. It's not necessarily so much because of organic, although that is a very, very big pull. But it's just to guarantee or nearly guarantee that you're not eating fillers you don't know about. So do the best. Someone gave me an example of what it was that she ate when she was growing up, and yeah, it was a little weak. So do the best, but do follow. More importantly, do do your best. Eat food that satisfies you physically as well as nurtures your heart. You need to feel good about the food you eat. Feel good. I mean, it's that simple. Just feel good about the food you eat, and never feel guilty about the food you eat. So follow the biological food clock, and that will almost dictate as well the food that you should or should not eat. You will be in touch. You will be, once you're in touch with this biological food clock, and so the rhythm of your body, it will also often tell you what you should eat, you see, or what the body, yeah, what you should eat, what the body kind of wants. Okay, that's I'm lucky because I have a supermarket very close by, a very good supermarket where I can buy and find, and I even have a butcher with grass-fed beef 2 blocks away. So that is absolutely terrific. But we all have that one way or another. You see, I have it within walking distance. Maybe my walking distance can be your driving distance. It's the same. It's the same. We can find this thing. My butcher is a hole in the wall. Most people who live around here don't even know. Yet they have some of the greatest meat for very affordable. So know about it around the neighborhood. Find a wall in the hole that will give you good quality food that you're going to eat according to your biological food clock, so that you can start shedding those 300,000 calories you have extra on your body, so that when you start to exercise, it won't be as difficult. And once you train for something that is more athletic, it will also be easier, and you will be on your way to a long, beautiful, healthy life. Great. Wow. Terrific. Very happy. If above 60 pounds, I think one ought to look into a homeopathic consultation to see what if there are any strong emotional connections to the food. Then a homeopathic remedy can very much help with that in removing that. Okay, I'm an example of it right here. It helps in removing that. So healthy, deeply healthy lives, and long lives, because we want to be with the people we love as long as possible. And if we don't have someone we love, then we with ourselves. I was speaking with a friend of mine, really, and regarding children and all, and I said, well, if I didn't have children, where I deeply enjoy, deeply experience, and deeply love, and I think the feeling is mutual, very much so. Um, um, what would I do? What would the hedonistic lifestyle? I'd be perfectly happy with that too. I would be perfectly happy with that as well. So stay healthy, live long lives. Shedding those 300,000 calories is part of living a long life. And till next time, 2 p.m. Homeopathic Services. My name is Pierre Fontaine. Welcome. Invite your friends. Let's talk. Let's share experiences about a biological food clock, a body rhythm, a food body rhythm, what we eat, what we don't want to eat, and why. Let's experience each other in our own individualities. Let's exercise. Let's share experiences of exercise, experiences of training. Let's do all of that. Let's do all of that, and support ourselves in this endeavor that has for so many people be a painful one. It ought not be a painful one. This is the most ridiculous thing. It has been made into a ridiculous one because the information was not given. This is the information that can almost guarantee you will lose weight. Thank you very much for listening. Till next week, 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on this Facebook page. Bye-bye, sunshines.